After the hospital sent my 9-year-old daughter home to die, she handmade 6 place cards for the relatives she trusted to attend her final birthday. Instead, they stood beneath her photograph at my sister's charity gala, raising $200,000 while my mother texted, "She won't remember who came." 3 days later, they accused me of keeping them away and sent me a folder containing a version of our family that had never existed. I sent one file to all 200 donors. As their phones began chiming, my family's phones started ringing, and 6 people who had agreed on one story began giving 6 different answers. Before I tell you how we reached that moment, I hope you're doing well wherever you're listening from. Stay with me through Elsie's story, and please subscribe to the channel so you won't miss what happened next. On Thursday, the 8th of October 2026, the seatbelt lay too heavily across my daughter's narrow shoulder. I reached over at a red light and eased it away from her collarbone, careful not to disturb the paper pharmacy bag tucked beside her. Elsie opened one eye. "Mom, don't drive like you're carrying a wedding cake." "I'm not. You stopped so gently a squirrel could have finished college in front of us." Her voice was thin, but the joke was still hers. I laughed because she wanted me to, then kept both hands steady on the wheel as we turned into our neighborhood outside Columbus, Ohio. The hospital had not sent Elsie home because she was better. Her cancer had stopped responding to treatment, and the doctors had told me there were no more curative options to offer. We were coming home, so the time she had left could belong to her as much as possible. I had spent the previous night trying to make our house ready, without making it look like a place where a child was expected to die. I moved a lamp so the living room would be easier to cross. I cleared a path between the couch and the bathroom. I placed the medical supplies in a cabinet where Elsie would not have to see them every time she looked up. The only thing I had hidden completely was the birthday box. A palliative care nurse met us at the house and quietly reviewed what I should watch for, who I could call, and how to keep Elsie comfortable. I listened, wrote down the numbers, and asked only the questions I needed answered. Elsie sat curled into the corner of the couch with a blanket over her knees, pretending not to listen while correcting the nurse's pronunciation of a movie title. When the nurse left, the front door clicked shut, and the house became ours again. Elsie looked around the living room. "Where are the paper lanterns?" I kept folding the blanket the nurse had left behind. "What lanterns?" "The ones in the birthday box. The orange and pink ones that look terrible together." "You're tired, sweetheart. We can celebrate quietly." That sounds like something adults say before they turn off all the lights and start whispering. I stopped folding. Her 9th birthday was 2 days away. I had packed the decorations into the hall closet after a doctor used the phrase "limited time," and then looked at me as if I should understand how little it might mean. I had convinced myself that protecting Elsie meant reducing everything around her. Fewer people, fewer plans, fewer chances to be disappointed. She had noticed anyway. "I want a birthday," she said. "Not a room where grown-ups talk softly because they think I'm asleep." I sat beside her. "Then we'll have a birthday. A real one? A real one." She studied my face long enough to make sure I was not editing the truth into something easier. That was what I did for work. I edited educational materials from home, smoothing clumsy sentences until they sounded clear and harmless. I had also done it for my family most of my life. Mom didn't mean it that way. Dad just didn't know what to say. Valerie was under pressure. Nathan was joking because he felt uncomfortable. I had spent years translating choices into accidents. Elsie pushed herself a little higher against the cushions. "I only want 6 people." She counted them on her fingers. Nana, Linda, Grandpa Robert, Aunt Valerie, Uncle Owen, Uncle Nathan, Aunt Tessa. There was no 7th name. Elsie's father had left when she was very young and had no real place in her life. I had held primary custody for years, and he would not suddenly return to become part of her final days. Elsie did not ask for him. She asked for the people who had filled the word family in her mind. I opened our family group chat and typed slowly, so I would not make the invitation sound optional. Elsie wants a small birthday at home Saturday evening. She will probably only have a short window when she feels awake enough. Please be here by 6. The first reply came from Valerie, my older sister. Of course. The gala is Saturday too, but we'll all leave after the opening introductions. Valerie was running communications for a charity gala supporting families caring for seriously ill children. She had told me weeks earlier that Elsie's story would be mentioned, and I had agreed to the use of one portrait for that evening. At the time, it had felt like a way to help another parent feel less alone. Mom answered next. We'll find a way to do both. It was the kind of sentence that looked like a promise, until you tried to put a time beside it. Dad sent a red heart. Owen wrote that he would make sure Valerie stayed on schedule. Tessa asked what she should bring. Nathan replied last. Should I prepare emotionally for 9 candles? Or are we protecting the smoke detector? Elsie smiled when I read it aloud. Nathan was her favorite person to tease, partly because he always teased back. But I knew my brother well enough to hear what sat beneath the joke. He had not said what time he would come either. I typed another message. 6 o'clock matters. She tires quickly now. Valerie responded with a thumbs up. Mom wrote, We understand. Elsie leaned against me while I held the phone. Maybe we should put their names on the chairs. So nobody steals Grandpa's seat? So nobody forgets where they belong. The words were simple enough that she did not hear what they did to me. They won't forget, I said. It came out with more certainty than anything in the group chat had earned. Elsie rested until late afternoon. When she woke, she asked for toast cut into uneven squares and declared our first day home a flattened bread day, but still edible. It was a game we had played for years. At bedtime, we chose a food that matched the day. Good days could be cinnamon rolls. Miserable days were canned peas. Strange days were soup with a fork. A flattened bread day isn't the worst, I said. No, the hospital was wet cereal. I laughed, and for a few minutes we were not a mother measuring breaths or a child being watched too carefully. We were simply us, arguing over whether wet cereal was worse than cold gravy. Before she fell asleep, Elsie asked me to buy colored cardstock the next morning. She wanted to make the place cards herself. 6 cards? I asked. 6, she said. 1 for each person. At the kitchen table, I found the scrap paper she had already used to practice their names. Linda, Robert, Valerie, Owen, Nathan, Tessa. She was not preparing for a crowd. She was waiting for 6 specific people to choose her. My phone lit up with a private message from Valerie. What color will Elsie be wearing Saturday? And what colors are you using for the place cards? I want everything to look consistent. I read the message twice. At the time, I told myself Valerie was only trying to make the gala and the birthday feel connected. I had no idea she was already thinking about how our family would look from the outside. By Friday morning, Elsie had enough energy to sit at the kitchen table for 12 minutes at a time. We learned that because she made me set the timer. 12 minutes of art, she said, arranging 6 pieces of colored cardstock in front of her. Then 12 minutes of being tragically horizontal. You don't have to finish them today. I do if people need to know where to sit tomorrow. The place cards were small enough to fit in her palm. She had chosen orange, pink, blue, and yellow sheets because no 2 colors looked as if they belonged together. When I suggested using 1 color for all 6, she looked at me patiently. They're different people, Mom. She started with Nana Linda's card. Elsie wrote the name carefully and added a tiny window in one corner. Linda's chair had to be near the real window because Nana was always cold. I did not remind her that my mother complained about drafts no matter where she sat. Grandpa Robert's card received a crooked wrench. Years earlier, he had repaired the wheel on Elsie's wooden train after she dragged it behind her until one axle snapped. She still remembered him sitting on our floor with his glasses sliding down his nose, refusing to admit the toy might be beyond saving. He fixes things even when they're not important, she said. I handed her the blue marker without answering. Valerie's name took the longest. Elsie erased the first attempt because one letter leaned too far right. On the second card, she printed every line evenly and added a narrow gold border. Aunt Valerie likes things professional. That she does. She'll notice if the letters are crooked. She'll probably notice if the table is crooked. Elsie pushed Valerie's card half an inch farther from the edge, as if my sister might inspect it with a ruler. Owen's card had a star because he handled lighting for Valerie's events. Nathan's name was deliberately written as Nathan, with the wrong vowel circled in red. Elsie grinned while she did it. He'll say I've ruined his whole birthday. It isn't his birthday. That won't stop him. Tessa's card received a tiny tooth with an enormous smile. Tessa worked as a dental hygienist and had once put floss picks in Elsie's Christmas stocking as a joke. Elsie had retaliated with a bag of candy the following year. By the time all 6 cards were outlined, Elsie's hand had begun to tremble. She tried to hide it by changing markers, but I saw the effort it took to close the cap. Break, I said. I'm almost done. You've been almost done for 20 minutes. That sounds made up. I helped her to the couch and placed the cards on the coffee table where she could see them. She studied the names as if they could summon their owners. While she rested, I photographed all 6 cards and sent the picture to the family group chat. Elsie made these herself. 6 o'clock tomorrow. She is counting on all of you. Dad answered with a heart. He did not mention a time. Tessa asked whether she should bring ice cream or anything soft Elsie might want. Before I could answer, Nathan wrote that Valerie now wanted everyone at the gala through the main appeal. Tessa deleted her question. A few seconds later, she replaced it with, "We'll figure it out." Valerie called instead of typing. I stepped into the hallway so Elsie would not hear every word. "The appeal is the center of the evening," my sister said. "We need the family together when we talk about Elsie." You need 6 people on a stage more than Elsie needs 6 people at her table? That's not what I said. It's what the schedule is doing. Valerie exhaled slowly. She used that breath whenever she believed someone was making a simple problem emotional. The donors need to see that this program supports real families. All 6 of us standing together shows them that none of us is facing this alone. But Elsie will be facing an empty table if everyone stays. No one said we're staying all night. We'll leave after the appeal. Then let Mom, Dad, Nathan, and Tessa come here at 6. You and Owen can stay. A family with missing people does not communicate the same thing. 6 handwritten cards sat less than 20 feet away, waiting to communicate something simpler. Mom joined after Valerie added her. Linda did not ask how Elsie felt. She began by telling me how much the charity could accomplish if the appeal went well. Standing together is something practical we can do for her, she said. Being here is something practical. You're reducing this to one evening. It is her birthday, and the gala could help families for years. Valerie has worked on this for months. A new message appeared from Nathan. I can head out right after the family photo. Mom answered before I could. Please don't make Valerie rearrange the whole program at the last minute. Nathan sent no further reply. I could have called each person separately. I could have demanded a departure time and an arrival time. I could have told anyone unwilling to promise 6 o'clock to stop letting Elsie believe they were coming. Instead, I imagined 6 adults saying grief had made me controlling. I wanted them to choose her without being forced. So I said, just be here as soon as you can. Valerie softened immediately. We will. When I returned to the living room, Elsie had moved the place cards into a row across her blanket. Did they like them? They loved them. It was not exactly what anyone had said, but I told myself it was close enough. Later, we chose the cake from a local bakery website. The first page showed smooth white frosting, perfect lettering, and flowers too precise to eat. Elsie rejected everyone. They look like advertisements. They're cakes. They look like cakes trying to get hired. She chose a lopsided design with pink frosting, orange dots, and uneven yellow stars. That's why it looks like a birthday, she said. If everything looks like an ad, it stops feeling real. I added it to the order without telling her how sharply the sentence landed. At Valerie's request, I sent her the bakery screenshot so she could match the colors in the family update. Valerie texted while we chose candles. Will you take a picture of the full table before everyone sits down? I assumed she wanted a keepsake and said I would try. Owen wanted all 6 relatives to take a photograph together at the gala before the appeal, something well lit for the family update. That sounded like Owen. He arranged people until the light fell correctly. Valerie explained that guests who donated or pledged at the gala would be invited to opt in for one direct update from Elsie's mother. After the event, the system would give me guest author access to send one written update with a single PDF attachment. I would not be able to see or download anyone's contact information, and Valerie said the post could go out directly once I approved it. I appreciated that someone else had considered privacy. I told her I would write something after the birthday. Perfect, she replied. We can use it for the family birthday update. I paused over the phrase. The birthday had not happened, yet the update already had a name. Then Elsie asked whether Nathan would notice the misspelling before dessert, and I put the phone down. That evening, I set the place cards on the dining table, while Elsie directed me from the couch. Linda went near the window. Robert sat beside her. Valerie and Owen were placed across from Nathan and Tessa so no one would feel left out. At 8:17, Valerie sent one final message. The main appeal has been moved back 30 minutes. Please don't promise Elsie an exact time. We'll come as soon as the program allows. I read it twice. The change meant they could not finish the appeal, drive the 25 minutes from the downtown hotel, and reach our house by 6. They all knew it. No one challenged Valerie. No one offered to leave before the appeal. Elsie watched me from the couch. Are they still coming? The honest answer was that I no longer knew. I looked at the 6 names written in her colored ink and made the promise they had refused to make. They'll be here. Saturday morning, Elsie woke before I did and tried to get out of bed without calling me. I found her sitting on the edge of the mattress with both feet touching the floor, one hand gripping the blanket while she waited for the dizziness to pass. You could have asked for help, I said. I was testing my legs. And? They need tutoring. She smiled, but the effort had already drained color from her face. I helped her back against the pillows and brought the shirt she had chosen for the party. It was soft pink with tiny silver stars across the front, bright enough to look festive without scratching her skin. Elsie touched one of the stars. Aunt Valerie asked what I was wearing. She likes to know the details. Does she want to match me? I think she wants everything to look nice. Elsie considered that, then held up the shirt. Tell her I'm wearing a dinosaur costume. I laughed and helped guide her arms through the sleeves. By the time she was dressed, she needed to rest again. Her birthday had not officially begun, yet every small action already required negotiation between what she wanted and what her body would permit. While she slept, I moved the dining table closer to the living room so she would not have to walk far. I placed 7 chairs around it, 1 for Elsie and 6 for the people whose names she had written. I left my own place beside her without a card. The home care equipment stayed against the far wall. I arranged the chairs so there was enough room to move safely, but not so much that the table looked clinical. I covered the supply cabinet with the paper lanterns Elsie had demanded. Orange and pink shapes hung above tubing and medication schedules, making the room look as if childhood had refused to surrender the space. At 4:30, Elsie woke and insisted on inspecting the table. I supported her elbow while she walked the few steps from the couch. She touched each place card in order, straightening them even though they were already aligned. Nana's near the window? Just like you asked. She'll say it's cold. She would say that if we put her inside an oven. Elsie smiled, then moved Robert's card closer to Linda's. Grandpa won't talk if he's too far away from her. I wondered whether anyone in my family understood how much attention Elsie had paid to them. She knew where each person preferred to sit, which foods they avoided, and who needed someone else nearby before they felt comfortable speaking. My phone buzzed on the counter. Valerie wrote that the program was running behind, but everyone was still trying. Nathan sent a separate message, saying they had not reached the family segment yet. Tessa wrote soon, as if the word could be stretched over any distance. I read Elsie only the gentlest parts. They're finishing something at the gala, I said. They'll update us. Are they coming at 6? That's still the plan. The answer left my mouth before I examined it. I was doing what I had always done, converting uncertainty into reassurance and calling it love. At 5:20, the cake arrived. Pink frosting leaned farther to one side than the picture on the bakery website, and the orange dots were different sizes. Elsie approved immediately. It failed professionally, she said. That makes it perfect. We put one small candle in the center, because blowing out 9 would take more strength than she had. The ice cream went into the freezer, and I checked the time again. At 5:38, Valerie wrote in the family chat. Everyone needs to stay through the full appeal. The family image is the point that closes the story. I stared at the words, family image. Elsie was sitting 10 feet from me, tracing the gold border around Valerie's name with one finger. I typed back that the party began at 6 and asked Mom, Dad, Nathan and Tessa to leave immediately. The hotel was only 25 minutes away. They could still make it, before Elsie became too tired. Dad answered first. I can head over now. Relief moved through me so quickly that I nearly read the message aloud. Then Mom replied, If one person leaves, the family presentation won't look complete. We agreed to stand together for Elsie. Nathan wrote that he might leave right after the appeal. Tessa said they would come once the total was announced. I wanted to ask what standing together meant, if all 6 of them were standing in a room without her. Instead, I reminded them that Elsie was dressed, awake, and waiting. No one answered. At 6, I lit the small candle, because Elsie had begun rubbing her eyes. Shouldn't we wait? She asked. We can relight it. That seems against birthday law. I checked. Ohio allows 2 lighting attempts. She gave me a suspicious look, but she let me place the cake in front of her. We did not sing yet. We sat together while the candle burned for a few seconds. Then I pinched it out before the wax reached the frosting. At 6:12, Nathan wrote that the appeal was beginning. A public live stream link appeared on Valerie's charity page. I should not have opened it. I knew whatever I saw would not bring them home faster. But Elsie asked whether the gala looked fancy, and I thought showing her a few seconds might make the waiting feel less personal. The hotel ballroom glowed in gold light. Round tables filled the room, and a large photograph of Elsie stood behind the stage. It was the portrait I had approved for that evening, taken months earlier when her cheeks were fuller and her hair still reached her shoulders. Owen moved across the stage, guiding people into place. I watched Linda step beside Valerie. Robert stood at Linda's other side. Nathan and Tessa joined them, and Owen took the remaining position after checking the lighting. All 6. Valerie approached the microphone. She spoke about families standing together through the impossible. She described the loneliness of childhood illness and the importance of making sure no parent carried that burden alone. Behind her, Elsie's photograph filled the screen. Beside her stood the 6 people Elsie had invited to sit at our table. The room applauded. Elsie leaned closer to my phone. That's my picture. Yes, they're all there. I lowered the phone slightly. The appeal is almost finished. She looked at the 6 place cards, then back at the screen. My phone vibrated with a message from the family chat. The announced total had climbed quickly as pledges came in. Valerie wrote that they were close to $200,000 and asked everyone to remain in place until the number was confirmed. I typed with both thumbs. Elsie is still awake. She is waiting for you. Mom answered less than a minute later. She won't remember who came. For a moment, I heard nothing from the live stream. Not the applause, not Valerie's voice, not the clink of glasses in the ballroom. I heard only the refrigerator humming behind me and Elsie breathing beside my shoulder. Dad did not object. Nathan did not say he was leaving. Tessa sent nothing. Owen remained on the stage. Valerie continued speaking. The message had given each of them a final chance to choose. None of them moved. On the live stream, the number changed to $200,000 in recorded donations and pledges. The ballroom erupted. Valerie covered her mouth with both hands. Linda hugged her. Robert smiled toward the audience. Nathan placed an arm around Tessa, and Owen motioned for all 6 of them to face the camera beneath Elsie's portrait. A public photograph appeared online moments later. It showed my entire family standing together through the impossible. At home, the ice cream had begun to soften along the edges of the bowl. The 6 chairs remained untouched. I opened my mouth to tell Elsie the program had trapped them longer than expected. I had used versions of that sentence all my life. Traffic had trapped someone. Work had trapped someone. Stress had made someone careless. Grief had made someone cruel. This time, I stopped. They chose to stay there, I said. Elsie did not cry. She looked down at the cards she had made, one by one, as if checking whether she had written the wrong names. Then she glanced at the cake. Should we eat before the ice cream turns into soup? Yes, I said. We should. She pointed to Linda's place. Can I have Nana's part? She always says not to waste food. I cut the cake and gave Elsie a small piece from the side with the most orange dots. She rated the frosting 7 out of 10 because it looked better than it tasted. We watched 12 minutes of a movie about a talking dog that solved crimes badly. Elsie said the dog had no respect for evidence. When she became tired, I helped her back to the couch. Before she lay down, she asked me to take a picture of the table. So I can remember the cards, she said. I photographed the 6 names and the cake between them. Elsie was not in the frame. At the time, the picture belonged only to us. She fell asleep before 7:30. I covered her with the blanket and returned to the dining room. None of the chairs had been pulled away from the table, not even an inch. My phone lit up again. Valerie had sent a private message. The donors loved her story. We need to keep the momentum going. I looked from her words to the 6 places my daughter had prepared, and for the first time I did not try to explain my family to myself. Elsie slept through most of Sunday morning. I sat beside her with one hand around a mug that had gone cold and listened to the quiet sounds of the house. The refrigerator clicked on. A car passed outside. Every few minutes, Elsie shifted beneath her blanket and made a soft sound in her throat, and I looked up to make sure her breathing had not changed. The 6-place cards were still on the dining table. I had removed the melted ice cream and wrapped what remained of the cake, but I had not moved the chairs. Part of me thought Elsie might ask where the cards had gone. Another part of me was not ready to touch them. Nathan texted shortly after 9. I'm sorry about last night. The gala got bigger than anyone expected. I read the message twice. The gala had not trapped him. It had simply become easier to stay there than enter the room where his niece was waiting. I typed, "She expected you at 6. He answered, "I know." Before that weekend, I would have supplied the rest of his apology. This time, I did not. Dad called near noon. I stepped into the kitchen so I would not wake Elsie. "How is she?" Robert asked. "Tired." After a long pause, he said, "I should have left." "Yes. Your mother thought it would look strange if we broke up the family group." "You knew where Elsie was." "I did." When he said he had not known the program would run so late, I reminded him that he knew about the delay at 5:38. "I don't know what to say," he admitted. "That's because the truthful thing is short." He ended the call without asking whether he could visit. His gentleness had always depended on someone else doing the difficult part for him. Mom called next and did not begin with an apology. $200,000, Linda said. "Do you understand how many families that could help?" "I understand the number." "Then you understand why everyone needed to stay." "She was not competing with the gala," I said. "She was waiting for her family. And she had you. Mom said it as if one person should have excused 6 absences. Then she added, that money will still be helping people long after one birthday is forgotten. She had changed the wording, but not the belief beneath it. If Elsie would not remember, then the choice did not count. I ended the call. Valerie sent photographs that afternoon. In one, the 6 of them stood beneath Elsie's portrait, while the fundraising total glowed on a screen behind them. In another, Valerie held both hands over her heart as the audience applauded. She wrote, "This is something Elsie can be proud of." I did not show the pictures to Elsie. I did not answer my sister. When Elsie woke, she asked whether Nathan had noticed the spelling on his card. I told her he had not made it to the table long enough to see it. He would have laughed, she said. I think so. She looked toward the dining room. Are they coming today? The question was quiet, without the certainty she had carried the day before. No one has asked yet, I said. It was not the answer she wanted, but it was true. We spent the afternoon watching a movie about a girl who trained a horse, despite having no understanding of fences. Elsie gave it 4 crackers out of 10 because the horse made better decisions than the adults. When she fell asleep again, I moved the place cards from the table to the sideboard. I kept them in the same order. By Monday, exactly 200 donors and pledgers had opted in through the charity's secure update channel. The system had sent them an automatic confirmation that a direct message from Elsie's mother would follow, and some replied to that same thread before I had posted anything. Because Valerie had already assigned me as the guest author, those replies appeared in my inbox. I could not see phone numbers, download contacts, or view anything beyond the display name and message each person chose to send. The first message thanked our family for showing such strength. The second said the photograph of all 6 relatives together had brought the donor to tears. A third thanked everyone surrounding sweet Elsie with love during her final birthday. I read that sentence several times. No one had surrounded Elsie. The 6 people in the photograph had surrounded a portrait. I called Valerie and asked what she had told the donors. That the family was standing together through a difficult weekend, she said. They think you were here. I cannot control every interpretation. You used her picture, spoke about her birthday, and let them reach the conclusion you needed. I simplified a complicated night. There was nothing complicated about where you were. That decision is over, Valerie said. Now we have to think about what happens next. To her, the missed birthday had already become an awkward detail in a larger campaign. Do not use another picture or story about Elsie until we agree on what is true. You approved the portrait. For the gala, not for anything after it. Valerie said stopping would damage the campaign and accused me of making a permanent decision while emotional. Then she ended the call to give me time to calm down. That evening, Elsie woke hungry and asked for toast. I cut it into uneven squares the way she liked and carried it to the couch. What kind of day? I asked. She chewed slowly before answering. Cold pizza. That bad? Not terrible. Just something that should have been better. I sat beside her and let the answer belong to her, without turning it into something larger. By Tuesday morning, the donor messages had become more specific. One person asked whether Elsie had opened the gifts from the gala. Another wanted to know which relative had taken the family birthday photograph. Then one donor asked the question no polished wording could easily avoid. Why wasn't there a picture of the family with Elsie at her birthday? Valerie copied the question into our family group chat. We need one clear answer before more people ask. Linda responded first. Say Lauren limited visitors because Elsie was too weak. I stared at the screen. I did not limit anyone. You all chose to stay at the gala. Mom replied almost immediately. You made it clear we would be unwelcome if we arrived late. That never happened. You were angry before the event even began, Linda wrote. No one knew what reaction we would walk into. Nathan sent, I don't remember Lauren saying we couldn't come. Tessa added nothing. Dad stayed silent. Owen wrote that arguing in the group chat would not solve the communications problem. Within 20 minutes, Valerie sent a draft. It was written in my voice. It thanked our family for surrounding Elsie with love throughout her birthday weekend. It said the celebration had remained private because Elsie could not manage a crowded room. It described the gala as the family's way of honoring her, while supporting other children. At the bottom, Valerie had placed my name. Lauren Bennett, Elsie's mother. My hands shook as I read it. Valerie followed with another message. Your guest author access is ready. Approve this and post it to the 200 donors who opted in. It will settle everything. I called her. You wrote something that did not happen and put my name under it. I wrote something accurate enough to protect everyone involved. Elsie invited 6 people. 6 chairs were waiting. No one came. She could not have handled a large gathering. You never came close enough to find out. Valerie lowered her voice. Do you really want donors debating private family mistakes instead of helping sick children? I want my daughter's life described truthfully. Mom joined the call after Valerie added her. Linda said grief was distorting my memory. She insisted I had made everyone feel unwanted. When I reminded her of the exact message she had sent, she said I was clinging to one sentence because I needed someone to blame. You kept us away, Lauren, she said. For the first time, I did not soften my answer. I did not stop anyone from coming. You knew Elsie was waiting, and you chose not to come. I will not sign my name beneath a memory that never happened. No one spoke for several seconds. Then Valerie said I was judging one paragraph, without understanding the full campaign. I'm giving you the full continuity folder, because I need you to see that this is bigger than one birthday, she said. I'm also giving you editor access, so you can revise and approve the mother's note yourself. A new notification appeared on my screen. She had shared the folder and granted me editor access to its contents. Her message arrived beneath it. Read everything before you decide to destroy this. By Wednesday morning, I had still not opened the folder Valerie sent the night before. Once Elsie chose a movie, it remained unopened for another 40 minutes. She had chosen one about 2 children who built a submarine out of household appliances. The machine could not possibly have worked, but she was too tired to complain about the science. She rested against my side with her feet beneath the blanket and corrected the characters whenever they used a kitchen tool for the wrong purpose. My phone lay face down, on the coffee table. Valerie's message waited beneath it. Read everything before you decide to destroy this. For the first time since the hospital sent Elsie home, I had been handed something that might explain what my family was doing. A few days earlier, I would have opened it immediately. I would have searched for the misunderstanding, the missing sentence, or the good intention that could make everything hurt less. But Elsie was still awake. Whatever Valerie wanted me to see could wait until my daughter finished laughing at a submarine made from a washing machine. Halfway through the movie, Elsie looked toward the dining room. I had moved the place cards to the sideboard, but she could still see the bright edges of the cardstock. Mom? Yes? How could they stand next to my picture if they couldn't come sit next to me? The question was so plain that I could not hide behind complicated words. I paused the movie. I think standing by a picture was easier for them. Because pictures don't get tired? Maybe partly. Pictures don't ask when you're coming. No. She studied the frozen screen, where the children were smiling inside their impossible submarine. Did the gala make them stay? I had told that kind of lie many times before. Work kept them late. The schedule changed. Things got complicated. No one meant to disappoint you. They chose to stay, I said. Sometimes grown-ups choose the thing that is easier to explain instead of the thing that is harder to do. Elsie thought about that for a moment. That's not a very good grown-up rule. No, it isn't. She reached for the remote and restarted the movie. The conversation ended because she wanted it to end, not because I had wrapped the truth in something comforting. By the time the credits appeared, her eyes had closed. I waited until her breathing settled, then carried the laptop to the kitchen table and opened Valerie's link. The shared folder looked ordinary. There was a copy of the gala program, a collection of approved photographs, donor thank you templates, and a calendar for follow-up messages. A document labeled Mother's Note contained blank spaces beside instructions like, add one personal sentence here, and include a hopeful closing. Because Valerie had given me editor-level access to revise that note, the folder also showed internal comments and version history. At first, I felt almost foolish for expecting something darker. Valerie worked in campaign communications. Of course she had templates. Of course Owen had organized folders and dates. Preparing future updates did not automatically mean anyone intended to lie. I opened the gala program first. Elsie's portrait appeared beside a short paragraph describing the strained childhood illness placed on entire families. The wording was polished, but it did not claim anyone had been at our house. The approved photo folder contained the single portrait I had permitted for Saturday night, along with the public photograph of the 6 relatives standing beneath it. Someone had labeled that image, "Family Together." I moved to the donor update schedule. The first planned message was the thank you Valerie had already sent me. The second was titled Birthday Weekend. A note beside it said the update should reassure donors that Elsie had been surrounded by family after the gala. My stomach tightened. I opened the attached draft. The first paragraph described the birthday decorations and the uneven pink cake. It mentioned the orange dots, the yellow stars, and the handmade place cards. Details Valerie had asked me about before Saturday. The next paragraph read differently. On her final birthday, Elsie's 6 closest relatives gathered around her table, sharing stories, laughter, and the quiet strength that has carried this family through an unimaginable season. I stopped breathing for a moment. The sentence was not vague. It did not suggest love from a distance or support across a difficult weekend. It placed all 6 of them inside my house. The following lines described Linda holding Elsie's hand while the candle burned. Robert supposedly told a story about repairing her wooden train. Nathan was said to have made her laugh by pretending to be offended over the misspelling on his place card. Nathan had never seen the card. Robert had never entered the room. My mother had not touched Elsie's hand. I scrolled to the document information. The first version had been created on Friday afternoon, before the birthday. For a few seconds, that timestamp gave me somewhere to place my hope. Valerie might have expected everyone to come. She might have drafted the update in advance and forgotten to change it after the gala ran late. It was careless and presumptuous, but it was still possible that the false version existed only because reality had changed after the writing was done. Then, I opened the version history. The document had been edited Sunday morning. A second edit appeared on Monday afternoon. Both were after the birthday. Both were after Valerie had received the family photograph from the gala. Both were after she knew no one had stepped inside our house. The scene around Elsie's table remained unchanged. One comment in the margin came from Owen. No usable family photo from the home. Can we frame this as a privacy choice? Beneath it, Valerie had replied, yes. Lauren limited access because Elsie was too tired. Keep the emphasis on emotional presence. I stared at the words until they blurred. They had not merely failed to update a draft. They had chosen an explanation for the missing photograph and placed the choice on me. Farther down, the phrase family standing together appeared again. It was in the gala summary, the donor thank you, the birthday update, and 3 captions scheduled for later in the week. The story had already decided what our family was. Reality was being asked to cooperate. A section labeled From Elsie's Mother contained a paragraph written in my voice. It spoke about feeling grateful that my daughter's final birthday had shown me the strength of family and community. It thanked my parents, siblings, and their spouses for surrounding us with love. It ended with my full name beneath it. No one had asked what I felt. They had left a space for me to provide one personal sentence, but everything important had already been written. My phone rang. Valerie's name appeared on the screen. I answered quietly and moved farther from the living room. You opened it, she said. I'm looking at a birthday that never happened. It was drafted before Saturday. and edited twice after Saturday. She was silent for half a second, then recovered. The core message is still true. Mom did not hold Elsie's hand. Lauren, donors do not need a minute-by-minute account of a private family evening. They need you not to invent one. No one is inventing Elsie's importance to us. You invented your presence. Her breathing changed. I could hear the strain she had hidden during our earlier calls. People responded because they saw a family standing together, she said. If we admit everyone stayed at the gala, the campaign becomes the story. You could tell the truth without describing every conflict. And say 6 adults stood on a stage while Elsie ate cake alone? Yes. The word came out, before fear could soften it. You are asking me to damage something good over one night, Valerie said. You planned the story before you planned how to get here. We prepare possibilities. Then reality changed. You kept the lie. It is not a lie to say Elsie was surrounded by love. It is a lie to say 6 people gathered around her table. Another silence followed. I looked toward the couch. Elsie had shifted onto her side, one hand tucked beneath her cheek. Delete the whole birthday scene, I said. Delete anything that says Mom held her hand, Dad told stories, or Nathan saw his card. Delete every sentence written under my name. Valerie did not argue immediately. Let me review it with Owen, she said at last. Some language can be adjusted. Not adjusted. Removed. I heard you. I wanted to believe that hearing me meant she had finally understood. After the call ended, Mom sent a message. Do not take away the only good thing to come from this. I read it once and locked my phone. The only good thing. Not Elsie's joke about the cake. Not the way she had written Nathan's name wrong on purpose. Not the 12 quiet minutes she had stayed awake to make 6 people feel expected. The good thing, according to my mother, was the money. I returned to the folder to make sure Valerie had removed the false scene. A notification showed that the birthday document had been updated. The sentence about all 6 relatives gathering around Elsie's table was gone. Linda no longer held her hand. Robert no longer told the train story. Nathan's place card had disappeared. For one brief moment, relief loosened my chest. Then I read the replacement. Even when circumstances kept them apart, Elsie remained surrounded by her family's love. The sentence could survive any fact. No one had to say who chose the circumstances. No one had to admit who stayed apart. The 6 empty chairs vanished beneath a phrase, soft enough to sound compassionate and empty enough to mean anything. Valerie had not corrected the story. She had only made the lie harder to prove. On Thursday morning, the sentence Valerie had used to replace the truth appeared again 3 folders later. Even when circumstances kept them apart, Elsie remained surrounded by her family's love. The wording sat beneath a photograph of all 6 relatives at the gala. It appeared again in a donor caption planned for the following week, then once more in a document labeled Family Continuity. Each version removed the house, the waiting, and the choice. All that remained was an idea soft enough to survive anything. I searched the folder for Elsie's name. Dozens of files appeared. Some were ordinary. Thank you templates, photo dimensions, notes about donation receipts, drafts that left spaces for information no one could know yet. Valerie's work required planning, and preparing for several outcomes was not automatically cruel. Then I saw a folder titled, After the Birthday. Inside were subfolders arranged by week. Week 1. Week 2. First holiday. 1 month. My hand remained on the trackpad while I listened to Elsie breathing in the living room. The kitchen suddenly felt too far away from her, though only a narrow doorway separated us. I opened week 1. The first document began with a sentence written in the past tense. In Elsie's final days, her grandmother Linda sat beside her bed, holding her hand through the quietest hours. I looked toward the couch. Linda had not entered our house since Elsie came home. The next paragraph described my mother smoothing Elsie's blanket and humming a song she used to sing when I was small. I could not remember Linda ever singing that song to Elsie. The detail belonged to my childhood, not my daughter's. A comment beside the paragraph carried Linda's name. Keep this. It shows the bond across generations. I read the comment twice. My mother had not merely agreed with a general message about family love. She had approved a specific memory that had not happened. Below that, Valerie had written that the exact setting could be adjusted after the family visit. There had been no visit. The document had been edited Monday night. I opened the next file. Its title read, "The First Morning Without Elsie's Voice." The document described me waking in a silent house and reaching for a pink mug Elsie supposedly used every morning. She did not own one and she hated warm chocolate. It went on to place my entire family around me, while grief erased every disagreement. My daughter was sleeping 15 feet away, yet someone had already written the morning after she died. Near the bottom, a line instructed me to add one personal sensory detail after the event. The phrase reduced her death to an empty field waiting for content. I closed the file, but the folder remained open. Another document was titled, "Returning to the Birthday Table." It described all 6 relatives coming back to our house after Elsie was gone. According to the draft, they would sit in the same places Elsie had chosen and share what each place card meant to them. Nathan would laugh through tears over the misspelling of his name. Robert would place the card with the wrench beside his heart. Linda would keep hers near the window because that was where Elsie had wanted her. They had not come when Elsie was alive. The story had already brought them back after her death, when their presence could no longer be tested. My throat tightened so sharply that I had to swallow before I could breathe normally. I found a schedule attached to the folder. The portrait I had approved for one gala was listed beside several future dates: 1 week after death, 1 month, the first major holiday, the anniversary of the fundraising campaign. Each entry included suggested captions and a different crop of Elsie's face. A note from Owen said the original portrait had enough resolution for repeated use. He had also added publication times and instructions for replacing any unfinished drafts once dates became known. The comments showed what each person had actually done. Valerie had written most of the copy. Owen had organized the schedule and publication sequence. Linda had approved language about family presence. I found no comments from Dad, Nathan, or Tessa, so their names inside the drafts did not prove they had read them. I stayed with what the documents could support, not what I wanted to believe. A document labeled Mother's Final Reflection contained several prepared paragraphs beneath my name. Most were written as if I had already lost Elsie. One described the strength I supposedly found in allowing our grief to help other families. Another thanked Valerie for turning Elsie's final chapter into lasting hope. At the bottom sat a highlighted instruction: Lauren to provide the last thing Elsie said to me. Below it, under suggested themes, if Lauren cannot provide a quote, were 3 placeholder versions. A smaller note said confirmation was required before publication. One involved Elsie asking me to keep helping sick children. Another had her saying she was not afraid. The third said she wanted our family to stay together. I covered my mouth with one hand. Elsie had said none of those things. She had spent that morning complaining that toast triangles tasted more responsible than toast squares. She had asked whether talking dogs in movies should be required to wear pants. She had told me her legs needed tutoring. Her words belonged to the life she was still living. Valerie had reduced them to a blank space with backup options. I opened an internal document marked Talking Points. The heading beneath it read, "Questions about the birthday." Everyone should emphasize that Lauren restricted access to protect Elsie's energy. Avoid language suggesting anyone chose the gala over the family gathering. Describe the family as emotionally present throughout the weekend. If asked about photographs, explain that Lauren requested privacy inside the home. Use the phrase "surrounded by love." Linda had left a comment beside the final line. Yes. Do not let one difficult evening erase what this family has done. The birthday had not simply been rewritten after donors began asking questions. The explanation had been standardized. My supposed restrictions were not a confused memory or something Mom had said in anger. They were part of the plan. I checked the creation dates. Some files had been written before Saturday, when Valerie still expected everyone to attend. The version history showed what happened after reality changed. On Sunday, she kept the invented family presents. On Monday, she added the claim that I had limited visitors. On Tuesday, after I objected, she replaced specific lies with language that was harder to challenge. The falsehood had survived through repeated choices, not neglect. I returned to the earliest birthday draft and found the details she had asked me about before the party. The pink shirt, the orange dots on the cake, the gold border around her own place card. I had mistaken those questions for attention. She had been collecting texture. The realization changed every message I had received before Saturday. When Valerie asked what Elsie would wear, she had already prepared captions. When Owen wanted the 6 relatives arranged together, he had been creating the image that would anchor the campaign. When Mom insisted no one leave the stage, she was protecting more than the appeal. She was protecting the picture of a united family they planned to use long after the ballroom emptied. The gala had not become the story because they missed the birthday. They had needed the birthday to fit the story they were already telling. A sharp sound came from the living room. I closed the laptop and hurried to Elsie. She had knocked the remote onto the floor while reaching for her water. "Sorry," she said. The remote attempted escape. I picked it up and helped her drink. Her hand felt warm against mine. "Were you working?" she asked. "Reading something. Was it boring?" I looked at her face, at the small crease between her eyebrows and the fading silver stars on her shirt. "No," I said. "It was worse than boring." She accepted that without asking for details. Her eyes closed again while I sat beside her. My first impulse had been to capture everything. I could take screenshots of every draft, every comment, and every sentence written under my name. I could send the entire folder to the donors before Valerie had time to change it. The anger made the idea feel clean. Then I remembered the blank asking for Elsie's last words. If I sent everything, strangers would read invented scenes about her death, her bedroom, and the hours beside her bed. Even while exposing what my family had done, I would be turning her remaining life into material for people to consume. I would be using Elsie to win an argument about people using Elsie. That recognition stopped me more effectively than fear had. I reopened the laptop only long enough to check the publication calendar. The first donor update was scheduled for Friday morning, less than a day away. Its status read, "Ready pending mother approval." If I refused, Valerie could remove my name and publish a family version without me. If I stayed quiet, the false story would continue moving forward. If I released everything, I could violate the privacy I was trying to defend. The question was no longer why 6 people had abandoned my daughter's birthday. I knew why. They had chosen the version of love that looked best from a distance. The question now was what I could do before they published a future Elsie had not yet lived. I looked at the deadline again. Friday morning. My silence was no longer an absence of action. It had become permission with a clock attached. That Thursday evening, I waited until Elsie fell asleep before I called Valerie. Her breathing had settled into the shallow rhythm I had learned to monitor without appearing to watch. I left the bedroom door open, carried my laptop to the kitchen, and placed my phone beside it. The publication calendar still glowed on the screen. Friday morning. Less than a day. Valerie answered on the 4th ring. Owen joined a moment later from another room, his voice carrying the hollow echo of an office or equipment space. "I need both of you to listen before you explain," I said. Valerie exhaled. "We have been listening." "No. You have been replacing whatever I say with language that protects the campaign." Owen spoke first. "Lauren, the scheduled material is internal. Drafting content in advance is normal. I know templates are normal. A blank thank you note is normal. A calendar is normal. Writing that my mother sat beside Elsie's bed when she has not entered this house is not normal." Neither of them answered. I opened the folder and kept my voice steady. There are 3 problems. You rewrote the birthday. You put words under my name that I never said. You wrote scenes from Elsie's future as if they had already happened. Valerie said I was confusing preparation with publication. Owen called the material unfinished. I read back the scenes about Linda beside Elsie's bed, Nathan laughing over a card he had never seen, and the morning after my daughter's death. Those are not formatting choices, I said. Valerie said the birthday language could be changed. You already changed it once. You removed the facts and kept the lie. Owen interrupted. What exactly do you want us to do? I had prepared the answer, while Elsie slept. Delete every scene that has not happened. Remove every sentence written in my voice. Stop scheduling her portrait after the gala. Do not publish anything else about Elsie until I approve what is being shared. That would suspend the entire sequence, Owen said. Yes, we have donor commitments, automated updates, and partner families already connected to this campaign. I am not asking you to touch the money or stop helping anyone. I am asking you to stop using my daughter's face and inventing her life. Valerie's patience broke. You cannot separate those things as neatly as you think. Donors responded to Elsie. They expect to know what happens next. She is not a series they subscribe to. That is not what I meant. It is what you built. Valerie added Mom to the call without asking me. Linda entered already speaking. I knew this would happen. You have decided that because everyone made one painful choice, nothing good is allowed to come from Elsie's story. This is not about punishing the charity. Then stop threatening the campaign. I am asking Valerie to delete memories that never happened. Mom's voice hardened. You are acting as if we do not love her. You had 6 chairs waiting for you. We were raising money in her name. You chose the room where loving her made you look generous. Dad's name appeared on the call, but Robert did not speak. I could hear faint movement on his end, as if he were sitting near Mom, and did not know whether joining counted as taking a side. Nathan entered next. Maybe we should pause the updates, he said. Just until everyone agrees on what is true. For 1 second, I felt relief. Then Mom asked, Are you willing to explain to the families waiting for assistance that you helped shut down their support because Lauren is angry? I didn't say shut it down. That is what pausing donor communication could do. Nathan's voice faded. I'm just saying we should be careful. Careful is not the same as stopping, Linda replied. He did not speak again. Tessa joined after Nathan messaged her. She listened while Valerie repeated that the drafts were flexible and that no final version had been approved. I opened the birthday document. Tessa, did you know there is a draft saying you sat across from Elsie during her party? What? It describes all 6 of you at the table. No one told me that. Valerie said, It was written before the schedule changed. Was it deleted afterward? Tessa asked. The silence answered before Valerie did. The specific scene is being revised, my sister said. Tessa's voice became smaller. Is my name in anything else? Everyone's name appears in working material. That is not what I asked. Owen said he could review the files and flag references that needed confirmation. Tessa did not sound reassured. I don't want my name attached to something I didn't do. Mom called that an overreaction. Valerie said no one was accusing Tessa of anything. Nathan tried to calm both sides without choosing either. The call became exactly what my family always created when one clear truth threatened them. Everyone began arguing about tone, intention, consequences, and who was making the situation worse. The original choice disappeared beneath the noise. I ended it by repeating my conditions. No invented scenes, no words under my name, no future use of Elsie's portrait. Put the campaign on hold until those things are removed. Valerie said she would review everything with Owen. I wanted to believe that was enough. Elsie woke while I waited for the revisions. She called for me, and I hurried to the bedroom. Her water glass was within reach, but her hand had been too weak to hold it steadily. I helped her drink and wiped a small drop from her chin. Were you talking to Aunt Valerie? she asked. Yes. For a long time. I'm sorry. You don't have to be sorry for talking. But I was sorry. Elsie had been awake for perhaps 10 minutes, and I had spent half of them refreshing a folder created by people who were not there. The campaign had entered our house without knocking. It was taking pieces of the same time it claimed to honor. She wanted to sit in the living room, so I helped her onto the couch and put on the talking dog movie again. She remembered the dog's worst mistake before the scene arrived and smiled when I pretended to be surprised. My laptop chimed from the kitchen. For several minutes, I ignored it. Then Elsie's eyes drifted closed. I carried the computer to the end of the couch so I could remain beside her while I checked. Valerie had revised the birthday update. The direct claims were gone. No one sat at the table. No one held Elsie's hand. Nathan's place card was no longer mentioned. The new version said our family had honored Elsie across 2 spaces joined by one purpose. It described the gala as an extension of the love surrounding her at home. It said privacy needs had prevented photographs inside the house. The falsehood had become smoother. The campaign calendar remained unchanged. Week 1 still waited beneath Elsie's name. The first holiday still had a scheduled portrait. The morning after her death still existed, stripped of the pink mug, but not of the life someone had written for me. A new draft had also appeared. My name was no longer at the bottom. Instead, it was labeled a message from Elsie's family. The document still used her photograph. It still described family love. It still suggested the 6 people on the gala stage had somehow shared her birthday without entering the house. I called Valerie privately. You removed my name and kept the story. You said not to use your words. I said to stop publishing what did not happen. I am her mother, and if you choose not to participate, we will respect that, Valerie said. But the family can still thank donors and speak about what Elsie means to us. The words settled with terrible clarity. They did not need my agreement. They only needed my absence. If you send this, I said, you are choosing the story over her again. Valerie's voice was tired now, almost sad. I am choosing to keep something good from collapsing. She ended the call. Elsie had opened her eyes. She watched me close the laptop. Are grown-ups talking about me again? She asked. I had believed protecting her meant keeping every ugly thing outside the room. But secrecy had not kept the campaign away. It had only left Elsie sensing shadows she could not name. I sat beside her and took her hand. There are parts of your story that other people are planning to share, I said. I need to know which parts belong to you, not to them and not even to me. Friday morning, Elsie's hand stayed inside mine, after I told her that other people were planning to share parts of her story. She looked at the dark laptop screen on the kitchen table, then back at me. Are they saying things about the birthday? Yes. What things? I chose each word carefully. Protecting her did not mean giving her every cruel detail. It also could not mean leaving her alone with questions she was already old enough to ask. They told people that the whole family was with you that weekend, I said. Some of what they wrote makes it sound as if everyone came here and sat around your table. But they didn't. No. Did they forget? I wished forgetfulness were the problem. They wrote some of it before the party because they expected everyone to come. After no one came, they kept parts that were not true. Elsie's fingers tightened around mine. Her face did not change much, but I saw the effort behind its stillness. Why? They think the story will make people keep helping other families. Would the truth make people stop? I don't know. She looked toward the sideboard where the 6 place cards remained in their original order. So they made a nicer birthday. A nicer version for themselves. Elsie leaned back against the couch. That sounds like cheating on a test you wrote. Despite everything, I smiled. It does. I did not tell her about the files describing the morning after her death. I did not tell her Valerie had prepared possible final words for her. I did not let the sentences from that folder enter the room where she was still alive. There is something else, I said. They are planning to share more pictures and stories about you later. Some parts have not happened. Some parts are not right. Do they know they're not right? Yes. She looked down at our joined hands. Can you make them stop? I can try. But I need to send people enough truth to show them why the stories should stop. The word people made her uneasy. Strangers? The donors from the gala. The ones who were promised an update from me. Do they get to see me? That is what I want you to decide. I moved the laptop away from the edge of the table and sat closer to her. I did not open the folder. I did not show her a screen full of documents created around her name. Instead, I asked one question at a time. Can I show them the 6 place cards? Elsie glanced toward the sideboard. All of them? Yes. Even Nathan's? Ava Nadoln's. Her mouth lifted slightly. Okay, he deserves to see the spelling. Can I tell them you made the cards because you expected everyone to come? She nodded. Can I say you waited? Her smile disappeared, but she nodded again. Can I show them the photograph of the table after no one came? Am I in it? No, it only shows the chairs, the cards, and part of the cake. She thought for a moment. You can show the table. I paused before asking the next question. Can I use a picture of your face? No. The answer came immediately. All right. Not the tired ones. Not the hospital ones. Not anywhere people will look at me and feel sorry before they read. I won't use them. She watched me closely, making sure I understood. Can I tell them what you said after everyone stayed at the gala? Which thing? What you said about eating before the ice cream became soup. Elsie shook her head. That was ours. Then it stays ours. She looked relieved, but I continued because I wanted every boundary to be clear. I will not tell them about your pain. I will not tell them what you asked me that night. I will not describe whether you cried or how tired you were. Good. What about the little paper beside your plate? The scrap was still tucked beneath the edge of the place card box. Elsie had written cold pizza on it the day after her birthday, our private rating for something that should have been better. No, she said. They won't understand it. They do not need to. She rested her head against my shoulder. Will the other sick kids lose the money? No. I am going to tell the donors I am not asking them to take help away from anyone. Even if Aunt Valerie lied? Even then. Elsie was quiet for a while. I could feel the faint weight of her against me and the uneven warmth of her hand. You can tell the truth without telling them everything, she said. The sentence was simple, but it gave me the shape of what I had to do. When Elsie needed to rest, I helped her back to bed and placed the water within reach. She asked me to leave the door open. I returned to the kitchen with the laptop, but positioned my chair where I could see the edge of her blanket from across the hall. I began with one paragraph. My name is Lauren Bennett. I did not prevent any member of my family from attending Elsie's birthday. 6 people were invited for 6 o'clock. They knew she had only a short period, when she would be awake enough to see them. They chose to remain at the gala. I read it twice, and removed every word that sounded like punishment. Then I added the invitation from the family group chat, including the time and the warning about Elsie's limited energy. Beneath it, I placed the responses showing that everyone understood. I included my mother's message. She won't remember who came. I did not ask Elsie for permission to use it. Linda had sent those words to me. The responsibility for sharing them belonged to me, just as the responsibility for writing them belonged to her. Next came the photograph of the table. 6 names in colored ink, 6 chairs that had not moved, the uneven pink cake near the center. I cropped the image so the small cold pizza note did not appear. I also removed anything that could reveal Elsie's medical equipment or the private arrangement of our home. The place cards could show that she had waited. They could not prove what Valerie had built afterward. For that, I needed the documents. I selected one short section from the first birthday draft. It claimed all 6 relatives had gathered around Elsie's table. I covered the unrelated paragraphs and removed details about the house, her condition, and anything she had said. Beneath the excerpt, I placed the creation time from Friday afternoon. Then I placed the Sunday and Monday revision times beside it, showing that the false presence remained after everyone knew no one had come. I chose one more excerpt from the future material. It described a family visit that had not happened yet, written in the past tense while Elsie was still alive. I removed the bedroom details, the imagined gestures, and every invented sentence attributed to my daughter. The remaining lines were enough. I did not include the draft about the morning after Elsie died. I did not include the possible versions of her final words. I did not include the paragraphs written beneath my name about grief I had not yet lived. Those documents would have caused the strongest reaction. They also belonged closest to Elsie's private life. Exposing everything would have made the file more shocking, but it would have repeated the same belief that had created the folder in the first place, that the most intimate parts of my daughter could be used if the purpose felt important enough. I added a final request. Please do not share, publish, or request additional images, medical details, private statements, or future stories about Elsie. I am not asking anyone to withdraw support from families receiving help. I am asking that my living daughter no longer be presented through events that did not happen or words she did not say. The finished file was 7 pages long. It did not contain every lie. It contained enough truth. A notification at the top of the donor system showed that my guest author access was still active. Valerie had created it so I could send the promised update. The permission allowed one written post, with a single PDF attachment, and direct publication to the same 200 donors and pledgers who had opted in at the gala. I could not see their phone numbers, download their information, or contact anyone outside that channel. The system showed the prepared message from Elsie's family. I replaced it with my file. My hand paused over the final button. If I sent it, Valerie might never forgive me. Mom might refuse to enter my house again. Dad could disappear into silence. Nathan and Tessa might decide that avoiding us was easier than admitting what they had chosen. Some of them might never see Elsie again. I went back to her room. She was awake, watching the doorway. Did you finish? Yes. Did you put my face in it? No. The pain stuff? No. The thing I said after the cake? That stays with us. She gave a small nod. Will they still get to write things before they happen? I am going to do everything I can to stop that. She looked past me toward the kitchen. Then send it. There was no anger in her voice, and no demand for revenge. She sounded like a child asking her mother to close a window before rain came through. I returned to the laptop. The cursor rested over Send Update. I did not think about defeating Valerie. I thought about the highlighted line in the folder, asking for the last thing Elsie would ever say to me. They would not have that sentence. They would not have every tear, every joke, every fear, or every morning that still belonged to us. I pressed send. The screen did not change immediately after I pressed send. For 3 seconds, the button remained gray while the system processed the file. Then a small line appeared beneath the message. Update sent to 200 subscribers. I could not hear those 200 phones from my kitchen. I saw them only as a delivery counter moving upward, first 17, then 43, then 98. Somewhere beyond our house, people who had stood beneath chandeliers and applauded my family were receiving the version no one had prepared for them. The counter reached 200. My phone chimed. The first reply contained no greeting. Who confirmed that all 6 relatives attended the birthday. A second arrived before I finished reading. Which words, in the original update, were actually written by you? The next person had opened the redacted document closely enough to compare its dates. Why was the paragraph about the family gathering still present in versions edited after the birthday? The replies did not arrive as one angry wave. They came unevenly, separated by seconds, and then crowded together. Some donors said nothing. Some wrote that they were forwarding the file to people who had attended the gala with them. Others asked whether the donations would still support the families named in the program. One message read, I do not want my pledge withdrawn, but I do not consent to receiving any more images of Elsie. Another donor wrote only one question. Who actually sat beside her that night? I placed both hands flat on the table. I could answer that without opening any folder. I did. I was the only adult at her table. My phone began ringing before the next reply appeared. Valerie demanded that I retract the file and say grief had caused me to misunderstand unfinished language. I sent the update you promised donors would receive from me, I said. The timestamps do not change because you call the documents drafts. This is bigger than our family now. It became bigger when you used Elsie's story to raise money. Valerie ended the call and immediately started a family group call. My screen filled with names as she added everyone. Linda joined first. Owen followed from Valerie's side of the room. Robert appeared without video. Nathan and Tessa entered together. No one greeted anyone. I could hear phones chiming through several microphones. Each new sound seemed to break Valerie's concentration. We need one response, she said. No one answers donors separately until we agree on the facts. The facts already happened, I said. The context is being distorted. Valerie read from a statement she had apparently prepared within minutes. The birthday gathering remained private because Lauren restricted access to protect Elsie's energy. Any language describing family presence was draft language intended to express emotional support. The purpose of the campaign and the value of the assistance remain unchanged. Mom repeated the first sentence almost exactly. Lauren did restrict access, she said. She had already made everyone feel unwelcome if we arrived late. I asked you to come at 6. You were angry. I was not angry until you chose not to come. You are remembering the entire weekend through grief. The old instinct rose inside me. I wanted to explain my tone, repeat every message, and prove I had not made them feel unwelcome. Then I saw the file still open on my screen. The invitation was there. Their replies were there. The time was there. I did not need to make the truth more comfortable before it could count. Owen spoke over another incoming call. The documents being circulated were draft language. They were not approved for release. I opened the birthday excerpt. The first version was created Friday, I said. It was edited Sunday morning and Monday afternoon. Why did the family remain at Elsie's table after everyone knew no one had come? It should have been updated more carefully, Owen said. That is not what I asked, Valerie interrupted. The specific scene was removed. After I found it, the campaign was adjusting to an emotional situation. You adjusted the wording. You kept the false meaning. Robert's phone rang. He rejected the call, but a message appeared immediately afterward. I received a question, he said. His voice was barely audible. Read it, Valerie told him. Dad hesitated. It asks whether I sat in the chair with my name on it. No one spoke. Mom said, You do not have to answer a hostile question. It is not hostile, Robert replied. His voice sounded different from the one he had used when apologizing to me. There was no unfinished sentence waiting for rescue. It is a yes or no question. Valerie said the donor lacked context. Dad continued anyway. No, I did not sit in that chair. I was not there. Mom inhaled sharply. Robert, I almost left, he said. I told myself I would go after the photograph, then after the appeal, then after the total. I kept choosing the next 5 minutes. The words did not excuse him, but they belonged to him. For once, he was not asking me to translate them. Nathan's phone chimed next. He read silently, then covered his mouth with one hand. What does it say? Tessa asked. Nathan looked toward the screen. They want me to confirm that I supported Elsie all evening, Valerie said. You did. You supported the campaign. That is not what they mean. You stood with us. I stood at the gala. Nathan looked directly into his camera. I checked the time all night. I knew I could still leave. I kept thinking I would go after the next part, but I stayed because leaving would have made everyone angry. Lauren did not stop me. I chose not to go. Linda called him disloyal. Nathan shook his head. I was disloyal Saturday. Tessa had been scrolling through something on her own phone. Her face changed. My name is in this, Valerie said. Everyone's name was used in planning drafts. It says I sat across from Elsie and helped her cut the cake. That section was never published. It was edited after the birthday. Tessa looked at Nathan, not Valerie. Did you know they wrote this? No. I want my name removed from every file. Mom told her not to overreact. Tessa's voice trembled, but she did not withdraw the request. I followed everyone because I did not want to be the outsider causing trouble. That does not give anyone permission to write me into a room I chose not to enter. The word chose remained between us. Valerie tried to return to her prepared response. The purpose of the material was emotionally accurate. Everyone loved Elsie. The drafts were never intended as literal records, and Lauren's restrictions made a normal visit impossible. You cannot keep all three explanations, I said. Valerie stopped. If the material was only unfinished, you cannot claim it was emotionally accurate. If I prevented everyone from coming, Dad and Nathan would not be admitting they chose to stay. If everyone was present in another sense, you would not need a false scene at the table. Owen was quiet for several seconds. Another phone rang in the room with him and Valerie. Then he said, "The scheduled sequence cannot go out." Valerie turned away from her screen. "We can revise it." "No," Owen said. "Not without creating another explanation for why the existing drafts say what they say. We have a responsibility to the campaign. We have a responsibility not to publish things we know are false. You helped build them. I built the schedule. I treated the content like material waiting to be finalized. That was my mistake." Valerie stared at him. Owen continued, "I am pausing every future post using Elsie's image. If you do not remove the sequence, I will." The family stopped behaving like one unit. Robert would not take back his answer. Nathan would not claim he had supported Elsie all evening. Tessa wanted her name removed, and Owen would no longer keep the system running. Linda remained beside Valerie, repeating that I had humiliated the family, but the shared story could no longer hold them together. Replies continued entering my inbox. Most asked questions I could answer with dates, messages, and the 2 excerpts Elsie had allowed me to share. A few were angry. Some were embarrassed. Several said they still wanted their money to help the families in the program. One donor asked whether Elsie had cried when she realized no one was coming. I read the question twice. Then I replied, "That belongs to my daughter, not to the campaign and not to the donors." I did not describe her face. I did not mention the melting ice cream or the words she had chosen to keep between us. The donor answered with a brief apology and did not ask again. Valerie demanded that I send a second message explaining that the organization had not misused the donations. I agreed only to say what I knew. The announced $200,000 total represented recorded donations and pledges for the support program. I was not asking anyone to withdraw help from families who needed it. My objection concerned the use of Elsie's image and the invention of events around her life. That answer did not rescue Valerie's version. It also did not destroy something Elsie wanted protected. Owen removed the scheduled posts while we were still on the call. I watched their status change from ready to paused, then from paused to removed. The future dates remained on the calendar, but Elsie's portrait disappeared from them. With donor questions still arriving, Valerie used her content admin access to replace the family birthday update with a short correction. It stated that no relatives had attended Elsie's birthday gathering, that earlier draft language did not reflect the event accurately, and that no further image or personal update concerning Elsie would be distributed. Valerie did not read the correction aloud. She ended the call without apologizing. My phone continued to vibrate against the table. The screen filled with replies, questions, and missed calls from family members who had already said enough. I turned off the sound. From the bedroom, Elsie called my name. I closed the laptop and went to her. She was awake, her hair pressed flat on one side, and her blanket gathered beneath her chin. "Did it stop?" she asked. "The posts are down. They cannot use your picture again." She watched my face. Can they still write tomorrow before it happens? I sat beside her and took her hand. Not without you. After the family call ended, the house became quiet enough for me to hear the heating system settle inside the walls. Elsie had fallen asleep, with one hand resting over mine. My phone remained face down on the nightstand, vibrating every few minutes as messages arrived from donors and relatives. I did not turn it over. For the first time since she came home, no one outside our house was deciding what the next hour meant. Linda called the following morning. I answered from the kitchen while Elsie slept. Mom did not ask how she was feeling. She began with what the file had done to the family. You humiliated your sister in front of 200 people, she said. Valerie wrote events that did not happen. She was trying to protect something that helped sick children. She could have helped them without inventing Elsie's birthday. You gave strangers private family messages. I showed them the invitation, the choices everyone made, and the drafts written afterward. You wanted them to punish us. I wanted the false updates to stop. Mom refused to hear the difference. To her, truth became revenge the moment it damaged the version of us she preferred. You could have handled this privately, she said. I tried. You issued demands. I asked Valerie to remove invented memories. You expected everyone to obey you because you are grieving. I looked toward the hallway. Elsie's bedroom door remained open, exactly as she had requested. You still have not apologized for missing her birthday, I said. Linda's answer came quickly. I will not apologize for helping raise $200,000 in her honor. The amount had become a shield she held in front of every choice. Then you will not come here, I said. Her voice sharpened. You cannot keep my granddaughter from me because you dislike my opinion. I am not keeping her from you. Elsie will decide who enters this house. But you do not get to arrive while insisting that her birthday mattered less than your photograph. You are putting adult conflict on a dying child. No, I am removing it from her home. Mom said I would regret making permanent decisions while emotional. I ended the call without answering. Elsie woke an hour later and asked why Nana had called. I told her Linda still believed the gala mattered more than admitting what she had done. Does she want to come now? Elsie asked. Yes. Will she talk about the donors? Probably. Elsie thought for a moment, then shook her head. Not today. I did not ask whether she might change her mind tomorrow. Her answer belonged to that day, and that was enough. Valerie sent one written apology later that afternoon. It did not mention the birthday directly. She said she was sorry the campaign had caused additional pain and that she had allowed professional pressure to affect her judgment. She also said she hoped I would eventually understand that every decision had been made out of love. I did not reply. Owen sent a separate message, confirming that all scheduled content using Elsie's portrait had been removed. The organization's support program would continue serving the families already enrolled, but no future update would use Elsie's image, medical information, or personal story. He did not ask me to forgive him. He did not explain the scheduling system again. He sent screenshots showing that the sequence was gone, then wrote that he should have stopped it before I had to. Valerie had no unified family statement left to publish. Robert and Nathan had admitted they chose the gala. Tessa had demanded that her name be removed. Owen would not operate the schedule. Linda continued blaming me. The campaign still existed, but the story of 6 relatives standing together did not. Nathan called that evening. I want to ask something, he said. You can say no. I waited. Would you ask Elsie whether she wants to see me? You need to understand that she may not. I know. And if she says yes, you are not coming here to make her forgive you. I know. You are not explaining the gala, the pressure, Mom, or Valerie. I won't. He sounded as if he wanted to add something, but he stopped himself. I asked Elsie after dinner. Nathan wants to know whether he can visit. She was curled beneath the blanket, watching another terrible movie. This one involved a detective who solved crimes by talking to household appliances. Will he be weird? She asked. Almost certainly. Will he cry? Possibly. Will he make me talk about the birthday? I told him he cannot. Elsie considered the question longer than she had considered Linda's. He can come tomorrow for 20 minutes. Nathan arrived alone. He left his phone in his car without being asked. When he entered, he did not carry flowers, balloons, or anything that could turn the visit into a performance. He stood beside the couch until Elsie pointed toward the chair nearest her. "You missed your assigned seat," she said. "I know." She reached toward the side table. I handed her the place card with his name misspelled. Nathan looked at Nathan and laughed once before his face folded. He lowered his eyes and held the card between both hands. "I would have complained about this for years," he said. That was the plan. He did not ask why she had made it. He did not tell her he had intended to leave the gala. He did not ask whether she forgave him. For several minutes, neither of them spoke. Nathan sat inside the silence he had avoided on her birthday. He did not try to make it easier for himself. When Elsie grew tired, he stood, returned the place card to the table, and told her he loved her. "I know," she said. "You were just bad at showing it." He nodded. "Yes." He left when the 20 minutes ended. Robert later asked the same question, but Elsie said she did not want another visit that week. Dad accepted her answer. Tessa sent a short message saying she was sorry and did not expect a reply. Linda continued calling until I muted her number. I did not turn every consequence into a confrontation. The people outside our house had already taken enough of our time. The days that followed were small. One morning, Elsie wanted breakfast after noon because she had slept through the hours when toast was considered respectable. We ate cereal from mixing bowls because the regular bowls were in the dishwasher and neither of us cared enough to wait. We watched a movie so bad that Elsie changed its rating 3 times. It began as burnt beans, improved briefly to stale crackers, then collapsed into what she called mayonnaise left in a hot car. On another day, she asked me to braid her hair. There was not much left to gather, and my hands were never good at making even sections. The braid leaned so far to one side that she called it architecturally dishonest. I offered to redo it. "No," she said. "It has confidence." Elsie's strength faded gradually. There was no dramatic change timed to the family's exposure. No phone rang at the exact moment her breathing shifted. Nothing about her illness became a punishment arranged for the people who had failed her. On Sunday, October 25, she died at home. The room was quiet. I stayed beside her, and it remained as private as she wanted it. There was no perfect final sentence. She did not give me instructions for the family, the donors, or the charity. She did not turn her last minutes into a lesson for anyone else. She was my daughter until the end. Afterward, Valerie asked whether the campaign could share one final photograph and a short statement from me. I refused both. I did not create a foundation in Elsie's name. I did not become the public voice of grieving mothers. The support promised to other families continued without her face attached to it. People sometimes asked what her final words were. I never answered. There was also one ordinary morning during those last days when Elsie asked me to do something small and ridiculous. It was not brave, poetic, or suitable for a memorial. I did it badly, and she laughed harder than her body could comfortably manage. My phone was lying within reach. I did not pick it up. There is no photograph of that morning. There is no caption explaining why it mattered. No donor received it, and no campaign was allowed to turn it into proof of anything. Only, I carry the whole memory. Its value has never depended on anyone else seeing it.